In a first-class cabin, Sergeant James Thompson, a black soldier, faced unexpected discomfort from wealthy passenger Mrs. Evelyn Morris. Her visibly agitated reaction and patronizing note sparked a powerful discussion on race and privilege. Despite the tense situation, Thompson's dignified response and the support from others highlighted the ongoing need for respect and equality. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Sergeant James Thompson, a distinguished black soldier whose uniform bore the marks of his years of dedicated service and sacrifice, had just taken his place in the first-class cabin. The gleaming medals and ribbons decorating his uniform were a testament to his unwavering commitment and valor. As he made his way down the aisle, the reactions from his fellow passengers ranged from curious glances to subtle expressions of unease. The high-end environment of the first-class section, known for its opulent amenities and refined atmosphere, suddenly became the stage for an unforeseen drama. Among the passengers was Mrs. Evelyn Morris, a wealthy socialite renowned for her association with high-profile events and unapologetic privilege. Nestled into her plush first-class seat, Mrs. Morris was accustomed to a world where her social status was met with deference and exclusivity. Her carefully cultivated sense of entitlement was abruptly challenged by Sergeant Thompson's presence. As Sergeant Thompson neared his seat, Mrs. Morris's demeanor shifted noticeably. Her previously poised and composed posture gave way to visible discomfort as she fidgeted with her seat, her irritation palpable. Her eyes flitted nervously around the cabin, and she exchanged uneasy glances with the other passengers nearby. This abrupt change in her behavior was further intensified when the flight attendants, upholding their commitment to professionalism and respect, greeted Sergeant Thompson with the same courtesy and attentiveness they extended to all first-class travelers. The contrast between Mrs. Morris's reaction and the flight attendants' respectful treatment underscored the deep-seated issues of privilege and bias that the encounter had brought to light. Mrs. Morris's visible agitation was magnified by the conspicuously respectful and attentive manner in which the flight attendants engaged with Sergeant Thompson. This juxtaposition underscored a stark and uncomfortable truth beneath her polished exterior and the facade of affluence and sophistication. Deeply ingrained biases and systemic inequalities remained ever present. As the plane filled with the hum of boarding passengers, Mrs. Morris's agitation became more pronounced with each passing minute. Her usually composed demeanor, a hallmark of her refined elegance, was now overshadowed by a palpable anxiety that seemed to seep from her very core. Her hands, typically steady and graceful, now trembled slightly as she gripped her boarding pass with a fierce, white-knuckled intensity. Her eyes, once sharp and discerning, scanned the cabin with barely concealed disapproval, revealing a simmering dissatisfaction that no amount of flight attendants' reassurances could seem to quell. The attendants, demonstrating practiced patience and professionalism, attempted to diffuse the tension with soothing words and courteous gestures. Yet these efforts appeared to only intensify Mrs. Morris's frustration. Each attempt to calm her was met with curt nods or dismissive waves, and her voice, though low and controlled, carried a distinct edge of contempt that reverberated through the cabin, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Around Mrs. Morris, the environment grew increasingly charged as she fidgeted in her seat, her fingers drumming restlessly against the armrest. Her gaze flitted anxiously between the flight attendants and the other passengers, who seemed to sense the rising tension in the air. It was as if an invisible storm was gathering around her, with no soothing gesture or calming words able to penetrate the storm clouds of her discontent. As the plane ascended, Mrs. Morris's displeasure became even more evident. Her sharp intake of breath and the visible strain in her expression marked her irritation. The aircraft's steady climb and eventual stabilization at cruising altitude seemed only to heighten her agitation. Reaching the zenith of her frustration, Mrs. Morris made a bold and provocative gesture, a move calculated to draw attention and make a statement that did not go unnoticed by those around her. With a stiff, almost mechanical grace, Mrs. Morris rose from her seat and approached Sergeant Thompson. Her movements were deliberate, each step measured and exact, as though she was walking a tightrope of restraint. Her posture was rigid, her shoulders set in a manner that conveyed a strained form of politeness, and her expression, though outwardly serene, bore the unmistakable strain of a forced decorum. Clutching a folded note tightly in her hand, she advanced with an air of deliberate condescension that was almost palpable. As she finally stood before Sergeant Thompson, her voice, though carefully modulated, carried a patronizing edge that seemed to linger in the air like a faint but acrid perfume. "I believe you might find this note rather enlightening," she said, her tone dripping with a barely concealed smirk that spoke volumes of her disdain. Sergeant Thompson, caught off guard by the unexpected confrontation, accepted the note with a blend of curiosity and apprehension that was mirrored in the slight tremor of his fingers. As he unfolded the paper, his mind raced through possible scenarios, his heart pounding in sync with his growing unease. The note that lay before him was a jarring juxtaposition of insincere sympathy and subtle disdain. Its hurried, jagged script conveyed a message that was as disconcerting as it was patronizing. The words, scrawled with hurried haste, seemed to mock the very principles of respect and understanding that Sergeant Thompson had hoped to uphold. The content of the note read, "Dear Sergeant Thompson, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to address my previous response, as I fear it may have come across as rather unkind. Please accept my sincere apologies if it appeared that way. My reaction was not intended to be a personal affront, but rather a reflection of my adherence to certain societal norms and expectations that I hold dear. I deeply respect and acknowledge your service and the sacrifices you have made. However, I must admit that I also hold the belief that not everyone is ideally suited for the more refined circles of high society, where social manners and conventions often play a significant role. This perspective is rooted in my values and experiences, and I hope it can be understood in the spirit in which it was intended. As a gesture of goodwill, I have enclosed a small token of appreciation. While I am aware that such gestures might not fully address or change the nature of our previous interactions, I hope it conveys my sincere intention to bridge any misunderstandings and show respect for your service and dedication. Once again, I offer my best wishes and hope that we can move forward with mutual understanding. Warm regards, Evelyn Morris. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. The note, signed with an elaborate flourish that seemed almost theatrical, was meant to convey a sense of grandiosity. Yet the insincerity of the gesture was glaringly evident. The extravagance of the signature did little to disguise the lack of genuine feeling behind it. Accompanying the note was a voucher for a high-end luxury store, a gesture that, rather than embodying true respect or appreciation, came across as a superficial attempt to mollify Sergeant Thompson or distance the sender from their underlying prejudices. The voucher, with its connotations of opulence, felt more like a token of distraction than a sincere apology or gesture of goodwill. As Sergeant Thompson unfolded the note and read its contents, a storm of emotions churned within him. The initial wave of anger surged with a powerful intensity, fueled by the overt disrespect and humiliation that seeped through the written words. This visceral reaction was not just a response to the note itself, but also to the broader reality of the entrenched racism and classism that continued to persist in society. The realization of these pervasive issues added a layer of profound sadness to his anger, creating a complex emotional landscape that was difficult to navigate. Despite the emotional turmoil raging within him, Sergeant Thompson managed to project a calm and composed demeanor. His response to the note was measured and controlled, a reflection of his inner strength and resolve. With deliberate precision, he folded the note and carefully placed it into his pocket. This action was not just about physically storing the note, it was a symbolic gesture of his decision to maintain his composure and not let this incident disrupt his sense of self or emotional equilibrium. The impact of the incident quickly rippled through the cabin. Fellow passengers, who had witnessed Mrs. Morris's behavior, were visibly shocked and dismayed. Their reactions ranged from discomfort to outright disapproval, underscoring the gravity of the situation. The flight crew, renowned for their vigilance and commitment to ensuring passenger well-being, responded with remarkable alacrity. They approached Sergeant Thompson with genuine apologies, offering their full support and solidarity. The crew members, clearly distressed by the unfolding events, assured Sergeant Thompson that they valued his presence and respected him greatly. They emphasized that the airline was unwaveringly dedicated to upholding the principles of dignity and respect for all passengers. Their swift and sincere response was a testament to their dedication to addressing the incident with the seriousness it deserved. Through their actions, they reinforced their commitment to fostering an environment where every individual is treated with the respect and consideration they deserve. Further alleviating the tension, the captain, upon becoming aware of the situation, addressed the entire cabin with a carefully crafted announcement that underscored the airline's core values of equality, respect, and inclusivity. His message, delivered with earnestness and authority, emphasized that the airline was committed to ensuring a respectful and dignified environment for all passengers. As the captain spoke, there were nods of agreement and murmurs of support from the passengers, many of whom had witnessed the unfolding drama. This collective response highlighted a shared commitment to upholding principles of fairness and mutual respect, reinforcing the importance of these values in the face of adversity. Upon landing, the incident swiftly captured the public's attention, becoming a prominent topic in both media circles and on social media platforms. The story of Sergeant Thompson's remarkable composure under immense pressure, juxtaposed with Mrs. Morris's jarring note, quickly garnered widespread coverage. The media and social media buzzed with discussions about the incident, catalyzing a wave of condemnation directed at Mrs. Morris and her actions. This intense scrutiny brought to light the persistent struggles against systemic racism and underscored the urgent need for enhanced empathy and respect across all areas of society. In the aftermath, Mrs. Morris found herself at the epicenter of a storm of public scrutiny and criticism. Her behavior was dissected and condemned by public figures, activists, and ordinary citizens alike. The luxury store voucher that Mrs. Morris had included as a supposed token of goodwill was widely derided as a superficial and insincere attempt to make amends. What was intended as a gesture of reconciliation instead became a symbol of the broader issue at hand, a glaring example of the need for genuine and meaningful actions in the fight against discrimination. The voucher's failure to address the deeper issues of prejudice and bias further emphasized the disconnect between token gestures and real progress. The story of the incident emerged as a poignant reminder of the critical importance of confronting prejudice and the powerful impact of maintaining one's dignity in the face of such challenges. It served as a call to action, highlighting the necessity for systemic change and the crucial role of individual integrity in fostering a more equitable and respectful society. The collective reaction to the incident not only brought attention to the immediate issues of racial and social injustice, but also ignited a broader conversation about the need for ongoing efforts to address and dismantle systemic biases. Sergeant Thompson emerged from the incident not only with his dignity intact, but also with a profoundly renewed sense of purpose. Throughout the ordeal, his unwavering composure and resolute stance in the face of injustice garnered widespread admiration. The support he received from fellow passengers and the flight crew further underscored the profound impact of standing firm against discrimination. Their solidarity was a powerful testament to the importance of maintaining one's principles and the strength that can be drawn from collective action. This incident evolved into a compelling narrative that illuminated the resilience of individuals who confront discrimination and the critical necessity of treating everyone with respect and equality. It became emblematic of the broader struggle for justice, demonstrating both the courage required to challenge unfairness and the transformative power of solidarity in effecting meaningful change. Moreover, the episode acted as a pivotal catalyst for deeper, more substantive conversations about race, privilege, and systemic inequality. It pushed societal norms and encouraged a rigorous examination of entrenched prejudices, prompting a renewed commitment to addressing and overcoming biases in all their forms. The story of Sergeant Thompson's dignified response and the subsequent public discourse it sparked served not only to highlight the ongoing battle against discrimination, but also to inspire a collective movement toward greater empathy and justice. Through its far-reaching impact, the incident became a powerful symbol of the necessity for ongoing vigilance and action in the fight against prejudice. It galvanized individuals and communities to reflect on their roles in perpetuating or combating discrimination and reinforced the idea that meaningful progress requires both individual courage and collective effort. The incident's legacy was a strengthened resolve to confront and dismantle systemic injustices, fostering a more equitable and respectful society for all. Thank you for watching this powerful story unfold. As we reflect on the events of Sergeant Thompson's encounter and Mrs. Morris's shocking note, it's important to consider the lessons we can learn from this experience. What have you learned from this story? How can we take these lessons to heart and apply them in our own lives to foster greater empathy, respect, and understanding? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice in your daily life. Your insights and reflections are valuable and can inspire others to make positive changes. If you enjoyed this video and found it meaningful, please leave your comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that explores important social issues and promotes thoughtful discussions. Thank you for being part of our community, and we look forward to hearing from you.